Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review, we are looking at the SH Figuarts One Piece Roanoa ZORO Romance Dawn version, which is the best version if you ask me. Let's just do a question of the day. Which version of ZORO is your favorite? Do you like the shirtless kimono robe type look? Do you like the not shirtless version? What do you like? I like this version. Like, for me, it's always P1 for these One Piece characters. I like those versions the best. So anyway, this figure, I've been told, is pretty average. I've heard some of the articulation's not so great, but I think it looks pretty good, and it looks like it should pose pretty well. So we're going to do the review and see how it is. So let's go ahead and get him off the stand and take a closer look. Alright, before we look at the figure, I do want to show you my package. It is a nice package. I like that they used the green, which is an accent color for the character so that the rest of the figure can stand out nicely, except for the fact that it's still hidden behind a lot of cardboard. I don't know why Bandai keeps doing that. We don't need to focus on the accessories. I think that's an interesting choice, but then they have the photo here, so it's like, yeah, I could go either way. But I think their One Piece packaging is one of their better packagings overall. The overall style with the map and the cutout and just the look, which is fairly standard SH Figuarts, but the little flair of One Piece added in is nice. Photos could use to be a little bit bigger if you ask me. I think they have a lot of extra stuff on here they don't need to have quite as large. I mean, some of it obviously, but there it is. Alright, nice packaging. Let's move on to the figure. This guy stands roughly 6 1/4 inches. That's going to make him roughly 15.7 centimeters. And he is in stock at Big Bad Toy Store, by the way. If you want to get one, I'll put a link in the description below. Alright, here he is up against a Marvel Legends Darwin to show you if he can fit in your 6-inch action figure collection. Which is not a 6-inch action figure collection, truly, but he would fit in well enough. He's a little small, I think, but that's fine. He'll be okay. We're going to set these aside because we don't need them for this part. Alright, so let's start with the aesthetics like we normally do. So far, the One Piece line has been largely underwhelming with a few really good-looking figures that don't turn out to be very good action figures at all, and then others that have just been really duds in general. There's only been, like, I think Sanji's probably the best one. Maybe the Dragon Lady. I know. Oh, well, there's Sabo. Sabo turned out great. Everybody says Ace did because Ace is popular, but he's pretty lousy. Let's see. This one looks like he's pretty good. He's one of the better looking ones for sure. But let's do another question of the day. Is that face accurate? I think his other faces look like him. To me, that doesn't quite look like him. There's something weird about the cheekbone area. Cheekbone and eye socket area that's a little strange. Does that look normal to you guys? Something's off about that face, if you ask me. It's not terrible by any means, and of course One Piece artwork is not photorealistic, but something seems a little off. But generally, it's a nice silhouette. It's a good-looking figure overall. This piece seems like it might be a little bit big. I don't know, but it looks pretty good. Almost no paint. There appears to be some shading up here, but it's not uniform enough. Like, this main part doesn't have much. Then we have some over here, so it looks a little iffy. No shading in the skin, but a nice matte finish for everything waist up. The pants have a little bit of luster to them, which is fine, and they are not black. They are technically green. And then the boots are glossy, or at least semi-gloss, and it looks pretty good. This is a nice looking figure. The earrings are done well. So yeah, he looks nice. He could use more paint, for sure, and maybe a little tweak here or there in the sculpt, but generally he's a pretty good looking figure. So far, we're doing alright. We haven't done much yet, but we're doing alright. I'm going to give this guy an 8 for the aesthetic. He looks nice. Not perfect, but pretty darn good. Now, as far as accessories go, he doesn't have the largest spread, but it's probably enough. Let's see. For the unhatted head, I'm going to call it a hat, we have the stern face that you already saw. We have the laughing face, and then we also have the super anime angry face. Those are fine. They look like they should, I suppose. And then for the hatted head, which is what we're going to call it, we have the biting head, which is for using his 3-sword style. And we have the smiling head, which looks pretty good. Not too bad. And of course, in order to use the hatted head, you take the thing off of his arm. That's fine. You do get a Luffy face, by the way, because we're still doing that. Luffy's got about 85 faces at this point. I think that's funny. For hands, we have the 2-fist hands that come on him in the package, and then a decent spread, but not an elaborate spread. I think it's fine. I don't know that you really need more than that, but I think a few more style pose hands wouldn't hurt. That's for sure. Of course, you get the swords that go on his belt, and the handles pop off so you can make it look like they've been unsheathed. And then, of course, in order to have that, you need to have the actual swords. I don't remember their names, guys. I'm a One Piece fan, but I don't have, like, that sort of knowledge. I don't know the names of the swords. I think it's, like, Steve, Carl, and Frank. I'm not sure, but they look nice. Very nicely detailed. They look good. Okay, so yeah, accessory-wise, nothing crazy, nothing that's like, oh wow, I've never seen that before, but definitely a fine spread. I will go for Figuarts. This might be only a 7, honestly, because it's pretty lackluster. You could go 8 because we get 2 different sets of heads and kind of 2 different sets of swords. You can pick 7 or 8. It's fine assortment. All right, let's talk about the articulation. I'm happy to report ball peg. Haha. We have ball peg in the neck and ball peg in the head, and it just moves around however you want. His neck could have a little bit more range, but it certainly doesn't need it. Like, that's a pretty good setup right there. You do whatever you want. That's the way you want your necks to work. That is nice. That pose right there, 99% of Marvel Legends can't just look to the side and down. I think that's funny. It's such a simple design. That's the way to do it, and they nailed it. Now, I bring that up because this is the most simple thing, and it works perfectly. And Bandai unsimplified shoulders to the point of absurdity. They have done... Who was that? Was that Vegeta the other day? Somebody had this design, and it has this crazy drop-down hinge system inside the chest. These sockets right here can move up and down, and they do that in order to really, really over-engineer the absolute crap out of this shoulder. Like, that does not need a hinge, a ball socket, and a ball hinge, and a swivel, and then another ball hinge. I think the swivel is probably part of one of those other joints. It's not necessary to do that. Look at that. Does that even look like that's going to be fun to pose? It's not. I promise you, that is a pain in the shoulder. It's a shoulder pain to pose this. Now, I get what they were going for. He's a sword guy. He should be able to do things, but they already cut it out. Like, it's already cut. You can just let him use it normally, and so it works nice. You can bring his arm forward. That's fine. But look at that. You don't need to have all of this going on just to do that. It's way too much. It's way over-engineered. And in some poses, that'll be fine, but in other poses, like raising his arm up, he can raise his arm up, but it looks ridiculous. I guess we can put him back together. You don't need to see the insides. Well, no, actually, I do need to show you that. It looks ridiculous. It's just too many cuts, too many chunks missing, and for basically nothing. You don't need to do all of that at all, not even a little bit. It's unfortunate. You will be able to hit a lot of poses. It will be unpleasant to handle, and a lot of poses are going to end up looking goofy as a result. So be aware of that. This is that shirt piece that's removable, or I mean, shirt piece, the bandana that's removable. You do get your bicep swivel at the shirt, so that's nice. I like that they gave us an extra bicep swivel. That'll be really good for posing. Double jointed elbow works pretty well. It's not the best looking elbow, but it does have decent anatomical engineering. For the wrist, we have our ball hinge. That's pretty good. And now for the torso, we have our ball peg. Look where that ball peg is. Let's see if you guys have been watching my reviews long enough to understand the problem. And if you're new here, you might learn something here. That ball peg is not in the center, which means the point of movement is not in the center. And watch what happens. Watch what happens. Because this is also not in the center, and it doesn't move. So watch what happens. We put them together, and we get this. He can lean back on that joint a little bit. I'm trying to not move the lower torso. He can lean back on that joint a little bit, and he can lean forward on that joint almost none before he just pops right off. That takes almost no force. It has very little range, and because it's offset, he has almost no range going forward at all, and then it does go back a little bit. It's terrible. You need it centered, and you need a bigger ball. That's just a horrible, horrible joint. Now, luckily, his lower joint does a lot of heavy lifting. It does a lot of the work. Like this top joint, it's on a soft torso, but it doesn't matter, because like it has no range. If that bottom joint doesn't move, this top joint is trash. So luckily, this bottom one is okay. You get your rotation. This is a floating, softer piece. So like you can pose him, but it's not going to look anywhere near as good as if this top joint actually worked. Because humans pose at more than one point, but it's underneath the rib cage. Obviously, our rib cage doesn't collapse too much as we're posing. So from this point, from basically the waist to the sternum, you need a lot of range. And we have to artificially do that by having a cut up here. He doesn't do that, so he only has basically this lower one, which is unfortunate. It'll be usable enough, but it's really not good. And you can see just from this how goofy those shoulders look when you start to pose them. They're really, really segmented and cut up. It's unfortunate, really. All right, for the hips. Almost the full splits, but they are limited for no reason. They definitely didn't need to do that. There's no nuggets or anything, so that's good. But unlimited range. Not here. It's very limited for no real reason, and it's fine. Like, you won't need to do the splits in most cases. Somebody asked me this the other day. Why do we need to do the splits? Well, we don't, but we have no reason not to. And having extra range on an action figure when there's actually no reason to not have it doesn't make sense. Kicks forward all right, kicks back just a little bit. Thigh swivel is fine. No crazy joints going on in the thighs here, so it's just your standard swivel. Single jointed knee, not much better than 90 degrees. Not a particularly good looking knee either. That's not what I want from Figuarts. I need more range, honestly. Especially for an anime character from a thing like One Piece where everything's crazy. I want to be able to put him in the craziest poses. You do get a boot swivel. You get an ankle hinge, which is just a ball hinge. It's pretty limited. You can push it, but it actually is popping the foot off to do that. So be aware, the foot will come off. You have to push it back on. Going back, you really get very limited range. Ankle rocker is nice. Toe hinge is well enough placed, well enough sculpted. It's pretty loose, but it's not too loose, so it's okay. So, his articulation, over-engineered in some places and way too simple in others. Like, a single jointed knee is not really okay. The ball peg in the torso is hot garbage. Things like that. So I'm going to balance it out to, it's a 7, I guess. It poses well enough. You're not going to hate the figure. It's not going to be the most fun to handle, and you're going to be pretty limited, but it's not terrible. Okay, and he's pretty well balanced. There's no real loose joint issue sort of thing going on. So yeah, I'll give it a 7 for articulation. It's nowhere near what it should have been, and it could have been way simpler. Like, this joint right here should be a solid piece with a ball peg that connects at the bottom / slightly toward the front. And then you just have a regular shoulder hinge on the outside of that, and that would have been perfectly usable. Instead, we have this crazy concoction of mechanics. That is not something you need to do ever. That must have been so unpleasant to design, and it doesn't actually serve any real purpose, and is a detriment. Really unfortunate. Look at that. It's just annoying. I can't even get it back into a neutral stance without it looking weird. I mean, it takes some effort. Okay, so yeah, overall verdict on this guy, it's a fine one. It's not especially good. It's not especially bad. It's not especially cheap. I think I'm just going to have to go 7. It's fine. It's not impressive. It's good enough. And as a ZORO fan, I would personally want to give it an 8. But as a reviewer, I think it's a 7. You guys can let me know what you think in the comment section below. But yeah, that's it for me. So thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please do give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. And if you haven't subscribed, you should. I have new videos just about every single day, and thousands already on the channel. So make sure you come back for all of that. And in the meantime, keep collecting.